In this episode, we're going to explore why, no matter how many times you've seemingly upgraded your life, you still haven't found the lasting fulfillment you're after. If you're tired of searching and you want to know where your fulfillment has been hiding, stay tuned. Welcome to Follow the Calling.
Be confident in knowing how to get the results you want.
Be secure in knowing who you really are.
Be inspired by the possibility of the difference you're here to make.
Follow your calling and experience true fulfillment.
So welcome everybody to another episode of Follow the Calling. And today we are talking about fulfillment and why changing your circumstances is the worst way to find it. Now, if you're anything like us and you've spent years doing exactly this, searching for fulfillment, changing your job or your career, changing your relationship, changing where you live, changing the car you drive, hoping that something would finally create that lasting sense of fulfillment that you crave. And no sooner do you think you found it than it slipped through your fingers yet again.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tiff, can you speak into a little bit more about how this problem looks in our lives, in people's lives?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, so that is the problem. We spend years of our lives feeling lost, stuck, and unfulfilled.
Yeah.
And why? Why do we do this? Well, our theory is, or one of the reasons is that we have been taught that fulfillment is something that we need to go and get.
Yeah.
Right. We set off. Yeah. So we set off and to go tick all the boxes, because that is the predetermined route to having a fulfilling life.
Right.
And that's, go to college, get a great paying job, get married, find a great house, have some kids.
Yeah.
Then, well, maybe you want to speak into to how that has looked for you, because I know, and I think a lot of people will resonate with this as well.
Yeah.
But this, for me, this was kind of the order to begin with, but then it became also more about time and money. You want to talk about that?
It does. And I think for me, that's been something that's occurred later on in my life, like after I did all the family and the house and all of those things, and the education and the career, and changing my career twice, and, and not just changing my career slightly, but completely changing direction. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's not until I've done all of those things, I was like, that's not working. So now all of a sudden, of course, it's not to say that having a family and having children is not fulfilling. It is remarkably fulfilling. But the point is that there's still this nagging something that seems to be missing. And how that looked for me, and I know that you've had a similar experience as well, is that I had this feeling that there was more for me in life. And because I had all of these things in place, I had the beautiful family, I had a nice house, I had a decent career, an education behind me. It's like I felt guilty for wanting more. I felt like I couldn't want more, and it took a while for me to even be honest and open and straight about the fact that what I had wasn't quite doing it for me. And that was in no way to downplay how much I appreciated my family and everything I had. It's just for some reason something was missing, and I couldn't help that. That's not something I could change. That feeling was there, and I didn't want it to be there, but it was there.
Yeah.
And, that was the point in my life when I was, for me personally, that was sort of my early 40s. And that's when I started thinking about, I just need more time to do what I want to do. And I need more money to do those things as well. So I started thinking about getting more time and more money. Now, time and money are just really no different than ticking any of those other boxes, like the house and the family, the education, the job, the car, whatever it is people we're chasing in our life that we think will just finally do it for us. Finally, we'll be happy when we get that thing. It's like time and money are no different, because time and money are circumstances. How much time you have and how much money you have or haven't got are just circumstances. So wishing you had more time or more money, or even wishing you were more busy, maybe wishing you had less time on your hands. Some people actually have that quality problem, right?
Yeah.
So all of those things, the point is, all of those things are circumstances. And, that is the title of this podcast. Changing your circumstances is the worst way to find fulfillment. Because what we want to speak to in this podcast is the belief really that's running in the background. Can you speak a little bit about that, and maybe how it's panned out for you, mate?
I'm wondering, actually, Andy, because something is coming up for me right here. I was doing some research the other day about people who have become successful later in their life. And the common age range was like right around the 40s. Yeah. Right around the 40s, where people made some big change in their life and went in a completely different direction than where they started. And the thing that I just feel to say here, I mean, this is why we're here, right? Yeah. Because you and I also same experience, like here, your early 40s, like I'm just in my 40s and as well. And this is where my life is finally starting to feel like my own. Yeah. And so the thing that was just really striking me when you were saying that, and in the research that I was doing the other day, it's like it's why we're here, because we're such a stand for having people know this before they're 40. Yeah. Like having people experience true fulfillment before they're 40.
Yeah, we're a stand for it, that just becoming the norm.
Yes. Yes. And for people to just be living into their or experiencing their lives in an overall more fulfilling way, approaching their lives in a more fulfilling way, in a more empowered way, right? Rather than what we were just talking about here about the problem. Like there's been a predefined path of fulfillment, safety, and success. And we've all, been following that because we think that's the thing that we're supposed to do.
Well, also, I mean, it doesn't really occur that there's anything else to do.
Correct.
Right? I mean, it's so dominant in our culture that it's like, well, what else is there? That's literally what people would, I would imagine, be saying, because when I was feeling that way, I knew that what was plaguing me, so giving me the most difficulty, I found, was the fact that I knew something was wrong, but I was literally looking at every area of my life and I was like, I've tried that. So what else is it? I'm like, and that's why I spent so long sitting with that unhappiness, that level of unfulfillment, and it became very unhealthy and quite toxic in my life, actually, for a few years, because I was unhappy and I couldn't do anything about it. And I'm a proactive person. If I'm unhappy, I like to be able to do something about it. I'm not somebody who likes to sit around and moan about what's up and then not do anything about it. I'm somebody who likes to go out there and fix it. Right.
So this is why you and I both actually, we're like, there is something more for us in life, and we're going to actively pursue that. Right. And there is this idea, and I think a lot of people will resonate with this, that fulfillment is something that you have to go get.
Yeah. Right.
Right. That is a belief that we have, that fulfillment is something that we have to go get. Now, go ahead.
I was just going to say straight away, I'm thinking you have to go and get an education, you have to go and get a promotion, you have to go and get status within a company so that you can say your job description is this, you got a certain salary. It's like, all of these things that we consider part of our security and part of our sense of who we are. That's the farce that I'm talking about here is like about having to go and get fulfillment, because we see fulfillment as being out there. We need to go and become somebody that we're not already, so that we can now be happy. It's like, well, hang on a minute. When did that become the norm? Right? And I would say long before I was born. Right? This has been going on like since probably way back in history, right? Obviously, but I think this is something that's been progressively indoctrinated in modern culture more and more and more, because what it actually facilitates is consumerism and, you know, the culture of the idea that you can go and buy your happiness. And people think this is the thing, right? Myself included, when I was in this, I thought I didn't believe that. I thought that, no, of course I know I can't go and buy my happiness. Of course I know that happiness doesn't exist in a new car. Of course I know it doesn't exist in material things or money or any of those things. Of course I know that. But how was I living my life? Because when you look to the actions that I was taking and the way I was living my life, well, if I didn't believe that, then I wouldn't have been doing the things I was doing that were making me so unhappy.
Yes.
Right? See, really, what I want to say here is it's your actions that determine the beliefs that you hold.
Right.
And the thing is about a belief that unlike an opinion, see, an opinion, you know you have an opinion. A belief, you might know you have a belief, but not necessarily so. Because 9 times out of 10, this is why we sometimes refer to them as limiting beliefs, because they're like, oh, I don't even know what my beliefs are. It's like they're running in the background. Yeah. Because they're so in the background that we don't even know they're there, and they're operating and they're informing everything we think, feel, say, and do. So that's why I'm saying my actions weren't correlating to somebody who doesn't believe that fulfillment is something you go and get. They were not correlating with somebody who doesn't believe that fulfillment can't be bought or sold. And I'm like, well, it's when I actually look back on it, it's no damn wonder I was so unhappy. I mean, if I'm living as though my fulfillment can be bought and sold, well, what does that make me? Right?
Right. And I mean,
that makes me a slave to my life. That's what that makes me.
That's right. The other thing that is coming up for me here is this really reinforces how indoctrinated we become in the beliefs of a society or your community or your family, like so much so that you don't even know that these beliefs are running your life. It is a huge thing to be thinking about.
We're born into it, aren't we?
Yeah, it's I mean, even just the concept that I might believe something that I'm not even aware of that I believe.
That's a strange one, right? How does that work? Hang on a minute. How can I not be aware of what I believe? But it's true. That's how beliefs are running, right?
It is true. And it's because it just goes back to what we were saying in the beginning, why this is the problem. It's because we're so indoctrinated. It's because this has been going on for generations.
Yeah.
It is so ingrained in who we are as a society that we don't even recognize that it's something that we're actually choosing.
Yeah, it is. It is. But because we were born into it, we don't actually realize we have that choice. So it feels like we're not choosing it.
Correct.
It's like a fish. I've used this metaphor so many times. It's like a fish in water. The fish doesn't know it's swimming in water.
Right.
But it's continuously surrounded by the very thing that's keeping it alive, you know? It's like it's surrounded by the stuff, but it has no idea. It's just the fish is just swimming around in its natural environment that it was born into. Yeah. And that's what it's like with the beliefs of society with which we're born into. And it's nobody's fault. We're not blaming anybody, but that's the way it is. And, you know, it's becoming increasingly the case that more and more people are becoming aware of this. More and more people are waking up to the fact that maybe things aren't quite how we thought they were. You only need to look around what's going on in the world, where every now and again, quite often nowadays, things are being unearthed that are making us realize that nothing is like it really seemed. You know, the political system, countries, you know, like even people in our lives, you know, like things are being, this is a time of revelation. This is a time when truth is beginning to emerge because it can no longer be held down, you know, and it's a completely different vibration that's going on the planet right now. And the truth of how things are is actually coming through. The cracks are beginning to show.
Yeah. So the thing that I'm feeling is like people who are listening may still be thinking, well, I am not one of those people. I don't believe that fulfillment comes from the things that I do and the things that I have.
Yeah.
And so what we want to offer you is to think about this. So everybody's aware of this idea of the honeymoon effect, especially when it comes to relationships, right?
Yeah, right.
So, you know, you're dating somebody new, it's exciting, everybody has their best foot forward, or you're married, and there's something new about that. Well, then what happens? I mean, it's called the honeymoon effect for a reason.
Absolutely.
Because things become normal. They start to wear off. They're not as new and fresh and exciting.
Yeah.
And then
because it's normal, exactly. Yeah.
Right. And then we move into this phase of, you know, questioning why we made that choice in the first place. Or, you know, I mean, that could go down so many roads. But the thing I want to bring up here is the honeymoon effect applies to more than just relationships. Oh, yeah. It's about the new car that you have. It's about the new job that you just got, or the new promotion, or the fact that you're changing your career, or the new house that you just bought. Like there's always this temporary high, right? Yeah. This sense of fulfillment and gratification that comes from doing something new.
Yeah. Or maybe it's like something you've always wanted and you're like, yes, I've got it. You know, maybe it's that relationship that your ideal relationship. Maybe it's your ideal house, your ideal job or career. It's like, whatever it is, it's like, yes, I made it. And that is an achievement. It's not to take away the fact that that's an achievement, but it's our expectation of what that, of reaching that point in our life will bring. Yeah.
Right. Right. And so like in the beginning, we were talking about this lasting sense of fulfillment that you crave. We know you crave it because we craved it. Right. You know, we know you're craving it because we've craved it. And then but it never lasts. What we're talking about here never lasts.
It's
thus the honeymoon effect.
No,
it's not sustainable.
And why is it not sustainable? It's sustainable because these things that we're going after, as in we have to go and get fulfillment, it's out there somewhere. These things that we're going after are circumstances. A job is a circumstance. The house you live in is a circumstance. How much time and money you have or haven't got are circumstances. The relationships that you have or haven't got are circumstances. All of these things are circumstances. Now, none of those things, should I say all of those things being circumstances, none of them are who we are. We are not our circumstances. We are who we are in response to our circumstances. And so circumstances being not who we are, they shift and change beyond our control. So if we place our happiness in circumstances and then they shift and change, well, then there goes our happiness along with that shift and change. Maybe you've got the ideal job that you want. I mean, I know that this happened to me. I changed my career completely. I was so happy for a short period of time, and I ended up working in a design agency where the culture there was amazing and everybody got on so well. There was a great social side to it. I was learning new things. I was really enjoying that for a good couple of years, and I became quite attached to that as really part of my identity. And then something changed. Something changed in the circumstance. And what that was a certain person joined that company that completely changed the dynamic of it, destroyed the social side, destroyed company morale, and changed basically the entire experience for everybody working there. And there was like this huge exodus of everybody that I liked, who I liked that worked there. They just left.
Yeah.
And you know, it was just like all of a sudden now, and then that left me there clinging on to the idea that this has been so good for so long. I can't just let it go. This was the perfect job for me. But then it had gone. It shifted and changed. It was like the moment had passed. It had its time, and then that circumstance changed, and it left me feeling like, damn, now I need to go and look for something else.
Yeah. And for me, I was just considering everything that we've been talking about. It's cool how things come up. Yeah. I spent a good portion of my nursing career, especially in the beginning, traveling. And so I would only do 3-month assignments, and that worked really well for me for really pretty much for this exact reason. It got to be new almost like every 3 to 6 months. It was new. And so there was something that was sustainable for me actually in doing that, because every 3 to 6 months I was moving to a new hospital, working with new people, being in a different environment. But then once I stopped doing that and settled into more like regular, just I could be in a position forever at a particular place. I still change jobs every 2 to 3 years. And 3 years was a long time for me to be in a place.
Right.
3 years was a long time for me to be in a place. Yeah. And I know that I was like this, this isn't working. And so I did that with jobs, and then also within areas of nursing. I'm like, well, not that one. Well, not, I don't want to do ICU anymore. Like, let me go work in a surgery center, and then from there to hospice. And then like, oh, well, maybe if I get into the, IT side of things and start supporting the electronic medical record, maybe I can be happy with that.
Got it.
And just one job after another job after another job. And like I said, I never had one for longer than 3 years. It was the longest.
Oh yeah. And really the fact that you consider 3 years a long time is only even determined by how quickly it changes for the circumstances you're operating in to change. So if that had lasted a bit longer, then you would consider 4 years to be a long time. Or if it had lasted a bit less, you would have considered 1 year to be a long time. But the point is that your idea of what's a long time is being determined by something outside of you. It's being determined because the reason you're moving on is because things become dissatisfactory. The reason things become dissatisfactory is because we place our happiness in the circumstance, and the circumstance changes. Something changes. So now it's not satisfactory anymore because it's not the reason we got in anymore. That happens in relationships, right? Maybe you get a great relationship, and then maybe all of a sudden that person starts working late. And you're like, hang on a minute, like I'm never seeing them. What's going on? I thought we had 2 years where we were just constantly enjoying each other's company. We were so in love. And, and then all of a sudden now this person starts working late, and then they start really getting into their career a bit more, and the dynamics totally change now, and it changes how you feel about that person a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying that destroys marriages or anything, because a good relationship is stronger than that. But my point is that something shifts and changes that presents a challenge that, if it wasn't a decent relationship, could be the end of it. It just depends what changes. Some people just go off each other and end up moving into areas of infidelity and cheating on each other. And it's like, well, why is that happening? And that's happening because they don't perceive their relationship to be the same as what it was when they got into it. Something's changed for them. They don't feel the same. And it's the same about the house. You know, maybe you bought the house with the school just around the corner, the shops just down the road, nice and close to the station to commute into town for your job. But then your other circumstances change, like where your kids go to school or where you work. And now all of a sudden now your house has lost its initial appeal, and you realise that you feel differently about where you live now. Now you have to go and find somewhere new to live. And that's okay.
The thing is, though, that you become disappointed about that every time.
Exactly.
Right? It's like, I thought I found what was going to be fulfilling to me. And now things have changed, and now I'm disappointed again.
Yeah.
And now I'm disappointed again.
It's not the fact that you have to change that's the problem. It's the expectation that we have behind every time for whatever to fulfill us in a more permanent, sustainable way. Right. And what we're saying here as well is that I won't say permanent, I'm going to say the word sustainable. Sustainable fulfillment is a possibility. It absolutely is a possibility, but it just requires that we don't look to our circumstances to provide that for us. Right. And that kind of leads us into, doesn't it, really? Well, okay, how do I do that? Right. So go on. I was just going to say, one of the questions that, and I think it's relevant to also say, if we have this belief that's running in the background that we're not aware of, that says that fulfillment comes from the things that we do and the things that we have, then the question that we begin asking ourselves in that is, well, what do I do? What do I need? What do I need to get? Yeah. What do I need to do? Yeah. And we find that a much more powerful question to ask ourselves is, who do we need to be? Who are we being? Right. And so this is why inside the Polaris game is one of the fundamental concepts that the Polaris game is built on. This idea of who you're being and identifying where your priorities are in how it is that you are approaching your life. Yeah. So I will go ahead and let you speak into that a little bit. Right. So, I mean, this is thinking a concept that we have here that we use is not, the question, who are you being, is something that's fundamental to the Polaris game, as you were saying, Tiff. But it's like the concept that we bring in to sort of like, deliver this to people in a way that they understand is not a new concept. It's the concept of be, do, have. And maybe there's plenty of people out there that have heard about this concept before, but it's one of the most fundamentally and foundationally secure concepts that exist in any personal development arena, in my opinion. Because first of all, it's incredibly simple and it's incredibly robust. It stands up to any questioning. And the fact of that is that it's just based on simple human experience that's undeniable. It's empirical. Now, what basically the be, do, have, there's three elements to that, right? Be, do, and have. And these are the three kind of areas of human existence. We have, there's what we have, there's what we do, and then there's who we're being. Now, to understand that, okay, well, what about what I feel and what I think? Well, those things are what you have, because thoughts and feelings are things that you have. They aren't things that you are. We are not our thoughts and feelings. We have thoughts and feelings, but we are not our thoughts and feelings. We are who we are in response to our thoughts and feelings. We are the choice. We are the free will that chooses what to do in response to those thoughts, that chooses what to do in response to those feelings. So even thoughts and feelings fall into the category of have, things that you have. And then there's obviously the things that you do. Maybe you think that, well, who are you? Well, I'm a nurse. I'm a graphic designer. No, who are you? Because they are things that you do, right? Who are you? And it's like all of a sudden now, like, where do I go with that? how can I describe who I am? It's like, my name's Andy. No, that's a name. That's something that you have. Who are you? Right?
Even like being a parent. So being a mom or dad, right? That's something that you do.
Classic. That is, again, something you do. And a family is something that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, but then what that leaves is the category where who we really are exists. And that's in the be. That's in the being. Who are we being? And that is who we are in response to our circumstances. It's independent of everything we do and everything we have. And that being the case, circumstances can shift and change. So therefore, anything that's in the circumstance can be taken away from you. But who you are in response to your circumstances is something that can never, ever be touched by anybody or anything, and can never, ever be taken away from you. It's truly yours, and it's who you truly are. So who you're being in response to your circumstances is who you are. It's what defines who you are. And you were saying brilliantly, actually, Tiff, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because I'd forgotten about that part. To ask the question, rather than asking the question, what is it I do? What do I need to do to be fulfilled? Yeah. Like, well, no, it's the wrong question. Mm-hmm. Because the quality of our life is a reflection of the quality of the questions we ask ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. The quality question we need to be asking ourselves is, who do I need to be? Mm-hmm. And the first thing to do there is to take a look. Who am I currently being? Who am I being in my life?
Right. So the way that we define this actually is there are three modalities, but there are two characters that you can play. And the first one is what we affectionately call the masked shadow, right? So the masked shadow is the person who we've both been, and sometimes we still are in our lives. The person who is doing all the things that we were just talking about, running around, changing jobs, changing careers, changing relationships, and searching for fulfillment in their circumstances. Just on a hope and a wish and a whim that something is finally going to answer that feeling that there's more for them.
Yeah.
But they're searching and still not finding anything, spending years and years and years of their lives lost, stuck, and unfulfilled.
Looking in the wrong place.
So I'm just thinking, like, do we want to go into the modalities of how the masked shadow works, or should we?
Yeah, I think that's worth doing just very quickly, actually, because I think that brings a certain level of distinction that I found really helpful myself. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to share that. So
yes.
There's two modalities that sit inside the masked shadow's character, and that is have, do, be, and do, have, be. Mm-hmm. Now, these are the order in which this person operates within their priorities. Have, do, be means that they are defining themselves by what they have and haven't got. What they believe isn't possible in their life is determined by what they have and haven't got, because it starts with have. If only I had enough time and money, I could create a business, which is the do, and then finally be happy and fulfilled, which is and that's why it goes have, do, be. Then there's the do, have, be. That's somebody who's a go-getter. They're out there, but they're still looking to their circumstances for their sense of achievement and fulfillment and completeness. So they'll go out and they'll do. So maybe they'll go out and they'll powerfully put together big, bold actions to put together a business. I mean, just as an example, I'm using the business as an example. It can be anything in your life. They'll go out and do something so that they can have something, so that they can be somebody. So I'll go out and create the business so that I can have more time and money and therefore be happy, because they think that time and money is what's going to make them happy. Mm-hmm. More time and more money. If I have more time and more money, I'll be happy. But the trouble is that time and money, more time, more money, and any circumstance actually will not make you happy. Mm-hmm. So therefore, you never reach the be part. So you get stuck between do and have, do and have, do and have.
Right.
And you just become busy and tired. And the
Right,
the harder you work, the more you get, the more you have to lose. So you just have to work harder even just to keep it. So that's how you become busy and tired. You get stuck with the golden handcuffs. Right?
Yeah. So how many of you out there feel busy and tired?
Oh man.
Or have felt busy and tired, right? Yes. We identify with what that looks like. And so the other thing that I think is really important to say about those two modalities that the mask shadow operates from. The first one, have, do, be, is what we would call the victim.
Yeah.
And the second one, the do, have, be, is what we would call the slave. And I can hear people right now saying, well, I'm not a victim.
Yeah.
I'm not a victim. Like, I'm not a slave to my life. This is, although I think they probably identify with that one a little bit easier.
Wow.
Nobody wants to admit that they're being a victim in their life.
No. But if you're at the mercy of your circumstances, so I mean, this was me. This was both of those were me. Right. And you know what? Now and again, they still are. Now and again, that still creeps back into my life. Now,
I will own that too.
Right. Thank you. So like nobody wants to say they're a victim or a slave, of course. But you see, if your happiness is dependent on what you can do and what you can and can't do and what you have and haven't got, then your happiness is dependent on your circumstances. And therefore you will be a victim because life will happen to you. Because life changes out there, it shifts and changes, and bang goes your happiness. Life is happening to you when that's what you believe. Yeah. Right. So if you're putting either of those things first, if you're the victim or the slave, it looks different on the circumstance. Yep. Sorry, on the surface, but underneath, the point is that life's happening to you, and there's a lack of power. Yes. The lack of personal power to create sustainable fulfillment in your life and have things, create an intention and powerfully have that be, have that come into being, and then to be able to maintain that as something that is truly yours. It's like, if it's dependent on circumstances in any way, it will be taken away from you, whether you like it or it doesn't matter how powerful you think you are. Yeah. So we're just encouraging anybody listening to take a look. Take a look at how this applies in your life. Now, the other character is what we also affectionately call the limitless voyager. Yeah. And the limitless voyager is the person who is unstoppable. The limitless voyager is unstoppable in creating anything that they want in their lives. In having that sustainable fulfillment that we've been talking about, and being connected to that. I won't say like always, but in having a space to connect with that and know what that is truly for them. The limitless voyager knows who they are. Yes. Is there anything that you would like to add to that? What was just coming up for me there is that just to say that none of these three modalities are permanent. It's like if you can hear yourself in any of these, there's nothing wrong, because and if you hear yourself in the limitless voyager, it's like, well, even if you're being that way now, then 5 minutes later you could be being one of the other ways. We find ourselves shifting and changing in and out of these three modalities all day long. And we can be in and out of these many times a day. But coming back to what you were saying about the limitless voyager, yes, they are truly powerful because they come from the place of be, do, have. Yes. So what comes first in their priorities has got nothing to do with their circumstances. It's to do with who they're being. Who they want to be comes first. And the circumstances that they get to enjoy, which is the do and the have, are a byproduct of who it is they are choosing to be. So money is a byproduct of who it is they're choosing to be. Money isn't a thing that they depend on to do what they want to do, nor is time. They don't need more money and more time, but more money and time come their way because of who it is they're choosing to be. Money and time and circumstances are not their focus.
They have a strong sense, again, of who they are. And they know that they can choose who they're being in response to any circumstance. So when they can stand strong in that space, they are then inspired to the doing. It's the action that they take is inspired. And then, like you said, the byproduct of that is all the things that people feel like they're after in the first place. Yeah. The time, the money, the fulfillment, the sustainable fulfillment.
Exactly. And the B part that it all stems from, the source of it, right, is who they know themselves to be. They know who they are. Right. They chasing money and time means you don't know who you are. Right. Because it's like, I must exist out there somewhere. No, you're right here. You're already a powerful human being. If only you would stop trying to go and be a powerful human being, you would see that you're already a very powerful human being. Yeah. And the be do have modality is about knowing that you're the source. You are the source of your own fulfillment. You are everything you ever dreamed of. And that in knowing that and getting to discover, or should I say getting to uncover that for yourself is the source of all the abundance and beautiful circumstances you could ever want. But you see, the point is you've already won the game because you are everything you ever wanted. This is why money comes to you. This is why time comes to you, because you're not chasing it anymore. You know, you can think of like Kyle Cease, for example. I don't know if anybody listening here knows Kyle Cease. I know that me and you both like to listen to a bit of Kyle now and again, right? Kyle likes to speak of it in terms of, you know, if you think of money, for example, if you think of money as a person, well, what is your relationship with that person? You know, what is your relationship with money is really what we're saying, because how are you being around money? Are you needy around money? Do you need it? Do you need it to complete you? Do you feel incomplete without it? Do you feel embarrassed and ashamed when it's not there? You know, and it's like, if you imagine that to be a person, what would you be saying to money? I mean, I know in my past, what I would have been saying was, oh, please stay, don't go. I'll come back. I please need you. I need you to be here so that I can feel complete. If that was a relationship with a human being, that other human being would quite rightly not want to be anywhere near me. Right? Because that's absolutely sickening.
Yes, it is sickening.
Right? So it's like, well, is it no reason that I was pushing money away all the time? Because I was continuously chasing it, placing my happiness in money, saying that I need you, money. I need you to be here so that I can consider myself complete. Right? So dropping who it was that I was being about money, shifting my relationship with money, and then just realizing that money's got nothing to do with who I am. Money is just a circumstance. You know, I'm not my circumstances. So in knowing who you are, this is what the Limitless Voyager is. The Limitless Voyager knows who they are. They don't mix up their sense of self in any way with circumstances. They can leverage their circumstances to empower them to do what they want to do and be who they want to be. They leverage the circumstances, but they don't depend on their circumstances in any way. And that's what makes them powerful and free.
Yeah. Yeah. So the opportunity, again, that everybody has listening to this is to take a look at who you're being in your life.
Yeah.
Are you operating as the victim or the slave? Are you being the masked shadow? Or are you operating as the Limitless Voyager? And well, that's the only thing that we call that, isn't it? The be do have is the Limitless Voyager.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And living empowered in your life, regardless of your circumstances. Regardless of your circumstances. Now, if you don't choose to do that, if you don't choose to take a look, the thing that you get is just to continue being run by beliefs that are in the background that you're unaware are even beliefs. You'll continue being the victim and slave to your life without even knowing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what has us being blown around like a leaf in the breeze in our own life. That has us fearing the unknown because we're shitting ourselves saying, well, what's going to happen next? We're constantly fearing things that happen, or maybe we're fearing that certain things won't happen. But the point is we feel powerless and not in control of our own life.
Yes.
When we depend on our circumstances, because that's not who we are. And that makes us continually fear the unknown. And the unknown is where all the power of creation exists. The unknown is where your heart's calling exists. That is where fulfillment exists. Right? To bring it home to the whole point of this podcast.
Yeah.
That's where fulfillment exists, and you can't go there because of fear of the unknown. Well, that's why you're going to remain stuck and unfulfilled, because you just won't take a look. And for the longest time, we didn't take a look, right?
Yeah, absolutely. For the longest time. So are there any, sort of last words that you have, Andy?
Just to say, I think that, if people are wondering what this Polaris game is all about that we speak about, this is a space, a community space, a private membership, a space where we take people through a process of discovery. And we, myself and Tiffany, we go into that process of discovery and uncovering for ourselves. We are right in there with you. This isn't a space where we sort of put ourselves above the people in our membership and get them to do a load of stuff that we're not prepared to do. We're right in there alongside everybody, sharing our life alongside everybody. This is real. We're real. And the people in our community, their lives are shifting and changing far beyond what we expected would happen, because we created the Polaris game as a way to, basically as a response to what we felt we needed the most in our life.
Yeah.
A way to take a good, honest look about what is it that's getting me the results I'm getting in my life? Why does this keep happening? And also, how can I get the results I want in my life? Right? Whatever that is. And that's basically, the Polaris game is a gamified, fun community space for people to take that discovery on for themselves. And a really great way to find out more about the Polaris game and to just join in the conversation of the pre-conversation of the Polaris game is, if you want to maybe tell people a little bit about the Follow the Call-In podcast community, Tiff.
Yeah, so we have a Follow the Calling podcast community on Facebook. In that space, we post our podcasts, and maybe you're listening to this there. We post our podcasts, but that space is intended for us to continue having conversation with anybody who's listening, who wants to explore these ideas and concepts and everything that we bring to this space even further. So in that space, we will be continuing this conversation that we've been having in this podcast in the Guardians Lounge. And again, that is exclusive to the Follow the Calling podcast community on Facebook. And in there, we regularly invite two community members to join us in that more intimate setting. So if you're interested in being part of this conversation in the Guardians Lounge, or even if you just want to listen in, make sure that you go and join the Facebook community and watch our welcome video for further instructions on how you can participate in the Guardians Lounge. And you'll be able to find that link in the show notes.
Fantastic. And even if you just want to hear more of this kind of conversation and delve more into these kind of topics without jumping into a conversation to begin with, there's no commitment in that group. It's just a place for you to show up and continue to consume this conversation and start creating and forming your own viewpoint on this totally in your own way. This is a space for people to unfold in their own way. There's no expectation for anybody whatsoever. So just come along and listen. Listen in the background at first, maybe, but just know that we are there to have a conversation with anybody with whatever they feel to raise, whether it be questions or things going on in your life, whatever that is. We're right there alongside you, taking ourselves on, taking our own lives on alongside you, because we are a stand for you to experience sustainable fulfillment, true, lasting, powerful living. Everybody is capable of that. And that's, we're a stand for everybody having that, for that being the norm in society. So come and join us there and just come and join in the conversation. We'd love to speak to you. I always enjoy speaking to people there. Yeah.
Yes. So if you like this episode, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We would be eternally grateful. And until next time, I just feel like I have to say it. How does it get better than this? And what else is possible? And we'll see you guys next time on Pabla Calling.
Awesome. Cheers, Tiff.
Bye for now.
Cheers.
Thank you for showing up for yourself and exploring this space with us. We are a stand for you to follow your calling, whatever that might be.
Be sure to subscribe, and if you're interested in playing with the concepts we share on this podcast and you'd like to continue this conversation with us, we invite you to join us in the Follow the Calling podcast community on Facebook, and you can find the link for that in the show notes.